Welcome in, welcome in, welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. Whether you are watching live, watching later, thank you for taking the time out of your evening, out of your morning, out of whatever time of the day it is. Thank you for taking the time out to view this video, to view this channel and this pod. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart, I appreciate it. You didn't have to spend this time with me, but you are doing so. It is Monday, January 26th. We're just about on rolling up to the start of the 10 o'clock hour tonight. Um, and I wanted to jump into this LSU coaching staff on the offensive side of the ball for a second. Because I think that we're overlooking something very important in how deep this staff goes back. So we're gonna take a little minute. We're gonna explore that staff for a second, and then also kind of just get into a little tangent. I'm just gonna have a little bit of fun here tonight. Shout out to the LSU women's team as they dog walk Florida for their fifth consecutive SEC win. Blew the Gators out. You'll love to see it. Final score was 89-60. Hats off to them. You're now 5-2 in the league, 19-2 overall, and they're finally getting things together. Um, let's see. They were led in points by Jada Richards, who was 6 for 10 from the field, 2 of 3 from three, 6 of 6 from the free throw line. Michaela Williams had 12 points. Flau'jae only had 8 points. Not too good of a shooting night, but still impact was felt. Jada Richards really held it down. Malaysia Fawali had 15 off the bench, and those bench minutes are very, very important. And I'm not gonna sit up here and make it seem like I watched the game tonight because I didn't, but because I was ripping and running on the highway tonight. Um, but still, I was trying to keep up with it as much as I can from my phone. So shout out to them. Thank y'all, ladies, for doing the work that you did tonight. We are also live on my Facebook page. So shout out to those who are seeing this on Facebook. Welcome in to this pod. Thank you for seeing it. And as you can see tonight, I'm repping the Who Dat Nation, baby. Rocking out my black and gold. It is freezing cold outside. No, legitimately, it is freezing cold outside. So to everybody who's had to deal with some freezing temperatures today, please stay warm, stay safe. Please, please, please don't go outside if you don't have to. To the people in Mississippi, Arkansas, Nashville, all those areas that are getting pounded by ice, please stay off the road, stay safe, and stay warm. Seek shelter, please. It's really rough times, especially dealing with the cold. So do what you can to get to find safety and to find shelter. So let's bring a little bit of brevity and peace while we can, a little bit of a distraction. So that's why I wanted to fire up tonight. Let's talk about this LSU coaching staff. As you may know, LSU has hired Charlie Weiss Jr. to be the offensive coordinator. And everybody wants to know, why is this such a big deal for Charlie to, be held on by LSU? If Lane is that much of a offensive savant, why does he need this guy? Well, it's because Charlie's that damn good. Let's not get it twisted. Um, and if you're not accustomed to it now, prepare yourselves because good coaches replace their coaching staffs. People want to replicate what you have. So if you have a good coaching staff, make sure to be prepared to not get comfortable with them. They shouldn't be around long. Look at what happened to 2000 to the 2019 staff. They got dismantled, and it derailed the momentum that LSU had because we didn't have a head coach who could handle that process. I mean, when Edo took over, Dave Aranda was already in place, so he just had to do what he had to do to retain him. Steve Ensminger was already in the building, so he just elevated him. Joe Brady came recommended by Sean Payton, so he had legs up to help him with that. And then when those guys left, he tried to replicate that as much as he possibly can by spending or relying on people to send him more references, and that's how you end up with Bo Pelini. That's how you end up with Jake Peets. At the end of Edo's tenure. So, if you have a good coaching staff, if you're having success, people are going to want to get a part of that. So, do not be discouraged by hearing things like what we heard today with Charlie Weiss Jr. And this isn't something that's new because at the very start of it, as soon as LSU hired Lane Kiffin and Lane made it known that Charlie Weiss was going to be his OC, the rumors started flooding. And I'm going to share my screen so y'all can see this here. But this morning, some news broke that Charlie Weiss was going to be interviewed by the Philadelphia Eagles. Plain and simple. LSU offensive coordinator Charlie Weiss Jr. spoke to the Philadelphia Eagles about the offensive coordinator vacancy, but informed the team that he has chosen to remain with Lane Kiffin and the Tigers per source. Why is that important? I'll tell you why. Because right now you have a guy that is hotter than most names in the NFL. They've seen what he can do with Lane Kiffin. And recency bias is a thing. And they've seen what he can do without Lane Kiffin. So don't expect to keep Charlie Weiss Jr. on staff too long. Because if this LSU team and this LSU offense does what we anticipated doing in 2026, this may be his last year here. But you can also tell that Lane values Charlie because it was the first announced hire that he had, and he made sure that he was the highest paid offensive coordinator in the SEC and added escalators to make sure that that was always the case. And you don't do that for just anybody. You do that for someone that you completely trust. And that's important for Lane because Lane can call plays. Like let's not treat Lane as if though he's not an offensive savant, because he is. Lane is good at play calling with or without Charlie Weiss Jr. But he makes Lane Kiffin a better head coach. And that's what you need. You need someone who's going to elevate your head coach. And that's exactly what Charlie Weiss Jr. is doing. But we all tend to look at Lane and Charlie and see that their relationship kind of kicked off when Lane was at Florida Atlantic, but that's not where it started. Lane and Charlie have been together. And I mean, they have been together for years. And I was kind of shocked when I realized this earlier looking into it, but it made me realize just how important the Nick Saban coaching tree is. And I already knew um just how deep and how broad that coaching staff is for Nick Saban. And it is absolutely, and I mean absolutely ridiculous. Let me pull this up real quick so y'all can see. And I want y'all to see this because this is absolutely crazy. If I can get this to, here it is, pop up here. Look at this. Somebody look at this. This was Nick Saban's staff in 2015. As a head coach, Kiffin as the OC, Kirby as the DC, Mario Cristobal as the O line coach, Billy Napier as wide receivers coach, Tosh Lapoe, I'm butchering his name. I always do, and I'm so sorry about that. Was your linebackers coach. Mel Tucker was your DB coach. Dan Lanning was your general. He was your grad assistant. I was going to say your general assistant. Was your grad assistant. And oh, by the way, you had an analyst on this staff who's not listed here by the name of Charlie Weiss Jr. So Charlie Weiss Jr. and Lane Kiffin have been sharing the same sideline off and on since 2015. So they have a decade's worth of a relationship and friendship with each other. This is why Lane values him so much. And it's also why Charlie is so in sync with how Lane wants to call a game because he's watched him do it up close for 10 years. This also why, I keep saying also why, this is also why Charlie Weiss Jr. is so valuable as a coach within his own right because you have a guy who watched his dad be the offensive coordinator for Bill Belichick in one of the greatest dynasties in the history of sports. Go on to win 4 Super Bowls, be around elite coaching and elite players and alpha mentalities, learn how to manage those things, learn the art of play calling within itself. So he's able to mix those traits in with what he's picking up from Lane Kiffin. And he himself is developing to be a weapon. And he's on your sideline. He's on your sideline. This coaching staff on that Alabama team was ridiculous. You got Saban. Kirby's won a natty, multiple, been to multiple natties. Mario just coached in a natty. Billy was Florida's head coach and is now at James Madison. Tosh has now become a head coach at UCLA. Mel Tucker was a former Power Four head coach at Michigan State, and Dan Lanning is the coach at Oregon. Some other notable names on that staff was Bo Davis, who was the architect behind Texas defensive line. That was elite, and is now the defensive line coach at the New Orleans Saints. Glenn Schumann, Scott Cochran, and then of course Charlie Weiss Jr. That staff is not fair. And when you look, and I'm going off on a tangent. And then when you look at Saban and his coaching tree, you see guys like Kurt Signetti who coached with Saban as well for 4 seasons, 2007 to 2010. Like Saban's imprint is all over this game. And do I think that Lane Kiffin will have the exact same effect that Saban has right now? No, because Saban is the goat of goats. Saban is a one of one. And I don't think anyone can replicate what Saban is doing. But do I think that Lane Kiffin has a chance to develop his own, to plant his own seeds and develop his own coaching tree? Yes. I mean, you see it immediately with Ole Miss. And as much as Ole Miss fans won't want to give any credit to Lane Kiffin for Pete Golding, they'll probably go back to Golding being with Saban. Cool. That's fine. Go back there then. But had it not been for Lane getting hired at Ole Miss and Keith Carter botching the coaching cycle, Pete Golding would not be the head coach at Ole Miss right now. It just is what it is at that point. And you can call a spade a spade. Pete Golding would not be the head coach at LSU had Keith Carter had some balls behind him and handled the situation differently. And that's just facts. And I'm not sitting up here saying that Pete Golding's going to set the world on fire. I think Pete Golding's going to keep Ole Miss just relevant enough and respectable enough, but I don't think that they'll ever break through. I mean, let's think about it. Look at the portal class that just was recruited between the two schools. Do you think Sam Levitt and Jordan Seaton, Ty Benefield are going to Ole Miss? I don't think so. Lane Kiffin told you that in his press conference. He said it himself. So why should we think anything different? He didn't believe this level of athlete was going to Ole Miss. So should we think and just assume that now because Lane's not there, it's going to get better? Hell no. Now, is that to say that Pete's going to be a complete bad coach? No. I think Pete Golding was dropped into an unenviable situation and he made the best out of it that he could. he made the best out of that situation that he could. You're telling me you have to lead an 11-1 team that has to go through a coaching change, and you have to be the pivotal point to hold that team together and go through a playoff run? And he was able to win two huge games. I mean, his first loss as a head coach comes in a playoff semifinal. That's massive. But now it's different because the offseason protocol, the schedule, the intensity in practices, the management of rosters, how you handle and build interpersonal relationship skills with other schools, other players, all that falls on Pete Golding's shoulder. Not only that, Pete Golding now has to rebuild the entire offensive side of the ball. And I think he made the biggest mistake that we have seen as LSU fans be made. I mentioned earlier Ed Ogeron losing Joe Brady and Steve Ensminger. Now, Joe Brady was referred by Sean Payton. The first thing Edo did was run out and figure out, hey, who can run this Joe Brady, Sean Payton offense? And he was referred Jake Peetz, a guy who's never called plays at any level. And his first chance at doing so is at one of the hottest brands in all of sports, especially in collegiate athletics. You get that guy to come on this campus with that pressure and those expectations and that level of inexperience, and it flopped. Jake Peetz walked so Joe Sloan could run. And now I think in Ole Miss, you're going to see a similar situation. Granted, I don't think it's going to be as bad because John David Baker, one, worked with Lane Kiffin. Two, he has experience calling plays, although be it at East Carolina, still has the experience of doing so. And East Carolina was pretty good on offense. But I can tell you now, what Ole Miss had with Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weiss Jr. on the sidelines is going to be a step, but they're going to feel a step down with John David Baker because he is not Lane Kiffin or Charlie Weiss Jr. There wasn't a significant drop-off between Lane and Charlie Weiss Jr. being on that sideline in the playoff when it came to calling plays. Was there a drop-off in handling certain situations as a coach? Yes. Yes. That 2-minute drive flubbing against Georgia almost cost them the game in the Sugar Bowl. Fortunately, they bounced back and handled it better in the end, and they learned. But you don't have the guy that was able to adjust on the fly to do that. He's in Baton Rouge now. And you don't have his mentor and predecessor either. He's the head coach. So who does John David Baker have to lean on when things hit the fan? Pete can't help you with that. He's a defensive guy. And as of late, his defenses have not been looking too great. And now you have to replace your leading sack getter and not only your team leading tackler, but the SEC leading tackler on defense. It's why you're caught up in the mess and the drama of tampering with Clemson linebacker Luke Farrelly as it is. Now, I didn't mean for this segment and this part of the show to go deep into Ole Miss, but it branches off pretty naturally because we're talking about coaching trees and the effects. And I think right now you are seeing Lane Kiffin planting his seeds for his own coaching tree. And of course, his coaching tree will have the roots that will tie back to Nick Saban. Like I said, Nick Saban is a one of one. He's a goat of goats. His coaching trees will always branch off to other coaching trees. And I'm excited to see this happen at LSU. Because if Lane Kiffin can do that, that means you have established yourself for the level of consistency that we've been missing throughout every time we go on a run. We don't want to just be known as a team or as a school who can get hot every 10, 5, 10 years and make an appearance just because we caught lightning in a bottle. No, it's time for you to take and maintain your seat at the table. And you do that with coaching. And you have staffs on this team, on offense and defense. Blake Baker is going to get a power four job. This defense will be a top 10 to top 5 defense in the nation. That LSU defense that put fear in opponents' hearts, that stressed coaches out, that you knew coming off the bus, it was going to be hard for you to get 20 points. That defense is about to show back up this season. The offense is going to be the offense. The good part about the offense is you don't have to worry about your head coach leaving. Not yet. The only itch that he's going to want to have to scratch, and that's if he does, will be in the NFL. And to be honest with you, you can't say he's leaving to go to the NFL for a higher pay or operational control. Because Lane Kiffin is getting what he wants, when he wants it, how he wants it. And he's making top NFL money right now. So what reason does he have to leave? Unless he just wants to duck some smoke. But clearly, if he wanted to duck smoke, he could have just stayed at Ole Miss. You got a coach that's like that. You got a coach that ain't running from anything. He's putting his foot down. He's about to show you how to put your foot on necks and choke people out. But he's doing that by establishing a major coaching staff. You have guys on this staff that will get bigger positions and bigger roles. Look at the move that you just made today. You go and add Ty Hatcher to this offensive staff who maybe has a chance to be the person waiting in the wings to maybe one day become an offensive coordinator alongside Lane Kiffin. Not saying he would be the immediate heir apparent to Charlie Weiss, but you got a guy who was the direct assistant to Kirby Smart. And now he's impressed Lane Kiffin so much that Lane, not only did he hire him, but he went and plucked him off of Georgia's staff. That's the difference that you have. You're not hiring former high school head coaches to come be your DB coaches like Brian Kelly did in his first season. You're hiring dudes. Your running back coach, he just took a kid out of Missouri and made him the leading rusher in the SEC. Your wide receivers coaches, both of them. He took a wide receiver room that was not heralded and made all those guys household names. And you should already know James Craig and the pedigree of Eric Wolford. Just from their times at LSU and Alabama, respectively. Your coaching staff is elite, and you should not overlook that. That's going to be the difference in this team going 8-4 and 10-2 and making a run in the playoffs because you have the coaches to get you there. And not only do you have them, this isn't a fresh staff. They've been together for years. You have cohesion within the staff. It would be hard for me to get behind this team the way that I'm falling into it if you had to bring in the 42 new players that you did, a brand new offensive staff, and a brand new defensive staff. You retained your entire defensive staff outside of one, and that was Kyle Williams. And he's only not around because just didn't want to do the college coaching life anymore. And deservedly so. Respect to him for even doing it when LSU was in a pinch. But you go out and pluck away a highly respected edge coach to make him your interior defensive line coach. And now you bring in a guy who's proven that he can develop elite talent and make them into something and add it to a defensive staff that's already been excelling and thriving in that area. You pull in your offensive staff, who everybody on that staff outside of your offensive line room has multiple years of working with each other. And even James Craig has years of working with Lane Kiffin. This is not something to be overlooked. It is very important for us to take note how serious this staff is and the difference it's going to make on this elite roster. Your roster is elite. And because you have cohesion amongst your coaching staff, the cohesion from the top will eventually roll down. You are going to make noise in the SEC. There are a lot of teams that are already on notice just because of the staff you have in place. And if you think you didn't have a staff in place, why are NFL teams constantly getting put in a locker over your offensive coordinator? Think about the time that we live in now, where your offensive coordinator is choosing to stay in college instead of bolting for the NFL. Do you know how hard that used to be to fight off the calls from the big leagues? Lane Kiffin earlier this evening reposted the same story and he captioned it by saying, hashtag it's LSU. That said it all right there. It's LSU. You're going to make noise. And I've been singing the same song every single time. You got the coach. You, LSU, you got the coach. Every time you wake up, you log into the social media app of your choice, you will see comments from other school fan bases, from other teams, sometimes even from different sports, trying to take shots at LSU because you put them in a locker. You did something that they weren't accustomed to. You shut them down. Oregon's not used to being outbid. Oregon's used to saying, oh, it's LSU that we're up against? Up the money. That doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't work. I had someone on Twitter, and I know that it was rage bait, trying to say that Oregon was DBU. Excuse me? Oregon's not even DBU in the Big Ten. And then someone tried to comment underneath the repost I made saying Christian Gonzalez is the number one cornerback in the NFL. Oh, a decent safety. Yeah, he's one of the best safeties, but he's not the best safety in the NFL. And even he had a rough day yesterday. And you only have one to lean on. LSU and Alabama lap Oregon when it comes to defensive backs in the NFL. Our backups are starters. And before you even talk about LSU, Oregon, go see Ohio State. But all this noise comes because they're mad because you got the coach that kept Jordan Seaton from going to Oregon. Like the page, subscribe. We're over 50 subscribers on YouTube. Thank you so much. Follow us. Follow me on Twitter at AJP413. I'm trying to get up over 500 followers. Follow the TNT underscore Podnola account for updates with the podcast. And we got a Discord channel. I'll be sharing those links and those invites soon coming up. I want to grow this community as much as possible. I'm going to be getting with some people. We're going to be talking some LSU baseball coming up. LSU baseball, I cannot talk about it enough until we get into the season. But it's one of those things that once first pitch is made, I am locked in every game. I'm not one of those baseball geniuses who can just talk about it off the cuff. So I'm going to get some people to come in and help bring that content to you guys, help deepen my understanding in it as well. Also, I'm working on getting some guests on the pod coming up here soon. Announcements are working down the line. But none of this would be possible without you. So thank you. Thank you for following me on Instagram, for following me on Twitter, for subscribing to the page on YouTube. We will be coming to Instagram soon. And we got a lot of things working out. My wife, shout out to my wife. I don't know if you guys may have seen on YouTube. I posted a video thanking my wife because that is my number one supporter. I want to shout her out again right now tonight. I love my wife. She's my best friend. She is my biggest fan. She sat down tonight, watched the episode that we did Sunday afternoon with Buddha Cheese. If you didn't see that episode, I highly recommend going back and watch that. Great pod. Talked about a lot of good stuff. Real fun conversation. Looking forward to doing another one, Buddha, here coming up soon. she was sitting down watching that episode and she got inspired and started doing some tweaks and some redesigns to the logo. So we're going to be refreshing the brand logo. We're going to be making some merch coming up. I know you're like, damn, like you just started. Why are you doing all this? Because if you want to be big, think big. So we coming out the gate swinging, and we're going to take big thoughts, but baby steps. All right. We're gonna slow roll a lot of this stuff. But at the end of the day, I want to build a community with each and every single one of you. And coming up too, we're gonna get more into Saints talk. LSU's hot topic right now. It's easy to talk about. It's fun to talk about. I love LSU. Love everything about LSU, football, baseball. If the men's basketball could ever get their act together, I would absolutely love talking about them. I love going to the Ragley Pistol Pete Maravich Center and catching games. I really do, and I hope that they do get it back right. It's needed. It's time. So say all that to say, like, share, subscribe. We got more content working up and coming out. Before we get out of here, I want to touch on this real quick. The portal's closed. You brought in 42 total players. And I'm going to get a little bit deeper into this later on in the week, too. But out of those 42 total players, there's a couple key additions that's going to make major impacts on this team. And I'm not talking about the quarterbacks. I'm not talking about Jordan Seaton. I think the guy that is going to make the one of the biggest impacts on this team coming up will be an unsung hero. In Zach Grace. Zach Grace. The guy who recorded no stats in Oregon? Yep. Sure will. And I don't expect them to record that many stats here in LSU. But to quote the guy, Jacob Hester, number 18, to quote him, one of the things that we were missing was a Y tight end. Not only do you use him as a tight end, you use him as an H-back and as a fullback. You use him as a guy who can push that line. That is going to be pivotal. And I think that's going to be an unsung hero to this offense. It's what you tried to make Trades Green do that he's not great at, and hats off to Trades for giving the effort to do it. But you will be able to multiply the efficiency of your offense because now you're adding another blocker in there who teams, linebackers, are absolutely going to hate going up against. He is a guy who, like a lot of offensive linemen, you will not hear his name called over the PA system. And that's going to be a great thing because that means he's doing his job well. And if you do hear his name being called, it's going to be because he did something explosive. So don't forget about Zach Grace. Please don't. Because he is a guy that's going to make a major, major, major important step and be a factor in this offense. We're gonna dive a little bit deeper into the class, talk about potential players and depth charts here later on this week. But it's already 10:30 and it's Tuesday, and work and school is back open tomorrow. So I'm not gonna keep y'all here any longer. Once again, like the page, share, and subscribe. We're on the road to 100 on YouTube, taking it baby steps to get to that 1,000 mark. And we're trying to get to 500 on Twitter at AJP413. And of course at TNT underscore pod NOLA. Follow your boy. Got big things coming up. Thank y'all very much and have a great night. Love y'all. Be safe. Be the difference that you want to see. Be the difference that you want to see. Love y'all. Y'all have a good night.